You do not seek power or popularity. You simply ask, is a thing right in itself? If it is, you do it no matter the cost.
My second coffee. Oh my god, my first one was a normal coffee because that peppermint mocha thing was not good. Got it because it was a limited edition, but it was not the vibe. Anyway, we got our little snowstorm last night, which was lovely. It looks like a winter wonderland. It's breathtaking. I was walking around like a crazy person because I was grinning ear to ear. It was so beautiful. But everything kind of got rearranged. My morning class got canceled and pretty much everything on campus got canceled until noon. And some of my afternoon appointments got rescheduled. But I had two today. One I just got back from and one I have in just under 2 hours. So I'm back in bed and I'm going to eat this cherry cheesecake thing that I made. Which to me sounds like a perfect way to spend a snow day. I'm going to do that and watch some Vampire Diaries. But I'm also going to do a bit of the paperwork that I have to do and my work studying because I've been procrastinating it. But I did want to talk about the little moral of this episode, which is mindset. And don't let anyone else's limiting beliefs become the parameters for your reality or expectation. I was thinking about this because I was remembering how, geez, that was a terrible sound. I'm so sorry. I was remembering how my grandmother used to say when I would talk about my best friend of a decade, who, ironically enough, even, it's not just Jillian's birthday today, it's his mother's birthday, so like, wow, didn't even know that. But, anyway, also other side tangent, one of the other, like, most sweet, like, genuine souls I've ever met, we're not even, like, that close, like, she's a friend of mine, but we just have our own life paths and we don't really talk that much, but she's so sweet to her core, has the same birthday as my best friend, and I'm like, something about that day, let me tell you. But I digress. Morgan, focus on the point. I remember talking to my grandmother about my best friend of a decade and just going on about how there's this like homecoming of soul. Like, we don't get to talk that much. We've already established such a deep like trust and understanding and relationship that now that we're like building our lives and we have so many other responsibilities, like sometimes it's months before we can talk to one another, and we'll see each other like once a year or once every other year. But there's just this innate trust and knowing of our minds, of our souls, that like whatever we send, we're not annoying them. Like, again, like all those anxieties that we were taught in every other relationship, like this unconditional love has showed that you can be you and your feelings are valid, and that you can show up and you can be seen and perceived, and that people could actually love that and value that, and just all of these things that with time we still know each other on this soul level, where we will see something and it will remind us of each other, or like that they would like this, or this is like He was telling me, actually, like, trying to shop for my Christmas gift, he like kept dragging his partner to the store, and he's like, look, Morgan would love this, this is why, but this small detail is like not perfect. And it was adorable, which is why I said in the Yuletide countdown that I would trust that man to make pretty much any decision on my behalf. But with all of that, in that like emotional security where we don't have to show up constantly, like it can be months without us talking, and yet I know I feel so seen, and like at the drop of a hat, like whenever we need it, we will video chat, and like the instant we answer the phone, we return to our authentic energy. And I say all of this to say, my grandmother said to me that, a couple years ago, don't expect that you'll ever make another friend like that you'll ever find a partner like that. That's a once in a lifetime thing. And even not even that, like most people don't get that. And that might be true. A lot of people don't get that. But from lack of belief that things like that can happen for them. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Your mindset creates the reality that your subconscious is constantly going in the direction to prove your own brain right. So since that friendship and since that understanding of self, I have gained like a dozen really close friends and even more like acquaintances in a sense of community here. And yes, each one of those friends, like people can only meet you at the depth that they've met themselves. So some are just really lovely people, and some are really lovely people that like just get me, you know what I mean? And there's degrees of emotional intelligence and soul recognition and identity coming into play here. But why I say all of this is to say that phrase, don't expect that you'll ever like have that again. I have people who make me feel seen and understood and recognized in all different forms. But specifically, the fact that she was like, you were lucky enough to have that great of a friend, don't expect you'll ever have that great of a relationship. What a profound limiting belief. And it's entirely incorrect. There are people where I hear them or I see them, and it so resonates with me, so brings me back to myself that I didn't even realize I was dysregulated until I hear how safe that person makes me feel. You know what I mean? And that, I feel like the really cheesy TikTok audio of like, when you know, it just needs to start playing. I spend too much time making really cheesy romantic meme references with Heaven because she's sung that song at me dozens of times. But it's really just how we communicate. It's great. As I said to Jillian, I am an artist and my genre is meme. That has been a quote for over a year in our friendship because I reference a lot of memes. Actually, if you saw in the last episode for her birthday when we made friendship bracelets, like 3 of them are just memes. It's great. Actually, I can read those 3 to you. It's this one just says dangerous lightning, and the R is upside down. I put it on right side up, and then I thought it looked more chaotic upside down, and so I redid it. But I don't know what it's originally from, but I got it from Julian Solomita, and there was just one episode, or like one video of Jenna's that he was like, they call me dangerous lightning, and so I just randomly say that to her to fill the silence. I go, they call me dangerous lightning, in that voice in particular. Then this one says frickin' bats, which we say as a vocal stim on the daily. And then this one says pine cones on a stick, which is from that Vine where she goes, I care about you, I got you pine cones on a stick, because that kid is my essence. So anyway, this is my extraordinarily chaotic way of saying Don't let anybody else's limitations or where they've met themselves or the parameters that they need to believe in to constitute the reality that they want to maintain in their lives dictate who you are or what you believe in or what you believe is possible for you. And you know, I'm taking the business and nonprofits class in the career ecology, and you know, I'm an older student who's seen some things, and so there's a lot of young people who are like, what is my passion? What do I want? What lights me up? And, you know, there's a lot of different approaches. I personally just say, like, follow the things that excite you. And, like, if all you know is that you want a raspberry muffin for breakfast this morning, then you eat that muffin and you think about how good it tastes and you take in the nature and you follow what's next, you know, and that's enough. But in constantly tuning into that emotional guidance system, you will know more and more who you are and what resonates with you, and eventually you find yourself feeling so at home with certain, not careers necessarily, but certain creations, certain passions, certain occupations, with certain locations and environments and cultures and people and dogs. God, I love dogs. But anyway, I digress. I should be a little productive today. Hey, so I'm back from my second meeting of today, and I'm like going through emails and scheduling for this week, and I just want to say also, like, your attitude and behavior towards people is greatly going to impact how people perceive you, how much they want to help you, how much they want to engage with you. For example, there is one faculty member that I've worked with several times, and I got an email from them, and so did several other people, like, where is this thing I'm looking for, people? And it's just like, it's a paper that benefits us and not necessarily them, and so, like, communication could just be better. Whereas, like, one of my professors this term, who I've also worked with before, and I greatly appreciate their perspective and their energy, they left a comment on one of my assignments, like, the way you wrote this in bullet points, it's like a soothing balm for my brain. Thank you for taking this class. You add valuable perspectives, and just, it's so lovely. And like, then I want to keep showing up and keep being present. And so this is what I mean by, like, you have control over so many more variables than you think when you're so intentional about your energy. And I know it can be really, really hard when you're already like neurodivergent and you're trying not to mask and you're trying to be authentic, but you're not trying to be like so vulnerable that you're taking on all this energy. You're like fueling energy vampires and like all of these different things. There's a lot, but with practice, coming back to yourself, coming back to your breathing, grounding in your body, and being really clear about the intention and the attitude you're bringing to the situation does wonders, I promise. I am working on my group project, which is working with a lot of cardboard while also doing research and listening to facts and data about how hormone cycles and fluctuations impact neurodivergence for a podcast episode. And first of all, very neurodivergent that I need to multitask to get that done, doing 2 assignments at once. But also speaking about hormone cycles, I am in my late luteal phase, so right before my period, so my hips are expanding, and this is excruciating. I am in so much pain sitting on the floor. Good afternoon. So last night, a couple of us got together for Jillian's birthday again, and we played our ransom notes like we did at our house last week of winter break, and we had more desserts and just talked, and it was a really lovely evening. And I did not do any of those paperwork things I needed to do, or my work study, but to be fair, I don't have the resources I need to do my work study at the moment. But today I had my morning class, And in between things, I'm coming back here to do this like physical prototyping for a group assignment we have for the business and nonprofits class. We have to present this Thursday. And so I'm doing my bit of the group work at the moment. And in between all of the things I needed to do today, as well as listening to different lectures and sort of collecting information on the topics that I want to speak about in my podcast independent study. So a little multitasking for my ADHD brain. But anyway, I met with a staff member here who is an opera singer and arborist, and we talked about music and performance and our experience and connections, which was really nice, and it was just lovely to talk about that. And there was also a staff member from my business and nonprofits class who is familiar with the idea that I'm trying to go in this like entrepreneurial direction, and so talking a little bit about like my goals and how they meld with the arts, that was really cool. So it was a really lovely lunch. I just made some pasta and brought it over, and then I stopped at the cafe on my way back here, and I'm needing to layer so much now. Like that little jacket I was wearing earlier is not enough after yesterday's snowstorm. But yeah, I think, I don't even know how many inches we got. It was a lot. Everything's covered. But yeah, in about half an hour, I have a meeting with the same professor as my first class today, because they're also my advisor for this independent study, which is why I'm doing a little bit more research now, because I have been putting that on the back burner for my classes that, you know, require external accountability. Not that this doesn't, because I still like I'm getting a grade. That's why I decided to make it an independent study, because I care about it so much that I wanted that like external pressure. But I'm really interested in the topic, and so I'm researching more, and this is just the first of many episodes. After that meeting in half an hour, I believe I'm having tea with a friend. And like I said, just finishing up this work pretty much. I think there's actually a food competition in the dining hall this evening. I think 2 students are doing this like food competitions, TV show, reality show type style thing. Their secret ingredient being mushrooms, and they're gonna make us all dinner. I don't really know what that entails. It sounds fun and chaotic, so I think I need to show up to that. And then, actually, is that tomorrow? It is tomorrow. No, today, because today's the open mic. Tomorrow is the winter concert in the evening. Ooh, so many things. So maybe also seeing the winter, or the open mic. I would have loved to prepare something, but I just didn't know when the open mic was going to be, and I had too many responsibilities to actually prepare something in the amount of time that I knew when the date was. So I might see it, but I might have exceeded my social boundary. Well, it is a boundary, my social battery, and I have other responsibilities and assignments, so we'll see where the day takes us. But I'm going to try to do a little bit more research and a little bit more group project work before this meeting, and I'll catch up with you guys in a bit. Look at my socks. They're so cozy. So this morning I had a meeting with my work study lead, and I'm about to have a meeting with SWAT in half an hour. But in the meantime, I've made some vegan tortellini in my little snowflake bowl. I'm also going to go to the cafe and the coffee house that the school has later this afternoon, and then I have my final meeting with my group for our project presentation tomorrow morning in class. I did not end up going to that mushroom cook-off battle thing or the open mic because I'm just very tired and sore. My cramps have been so bad this morning, but overall, it's been pretty chill. We did just get the email about the ball. It's normally the first weekend of February, so that will be the weekend that this episode airs because it's next weekend. Yeah, and I'm going to Belfast this Saturday, so that will be fun. That's the vibe, pretty chill. I need to eat this pasta before SWAT, so catch you in a bit. Good afternoon. So this morning, like late morning, I did my group presentation, and I think that it's important to state because I'm online and I share my life and I love performing, that like crippling anxiety that really does just inhibit your ability to do certain things, it exists for all people that you couldn't even imagine. And attempting the exposure therapy of facing it head on requires so much of you, and time to decompress and to take care of yourself and to make space to be proud of yourself for facing things and keep enforcing to your brain that you can trust you and that you've always been the one to keep you safe. And yeah, so needless to say, for me, I was in fight or flight for like 24 hours, and then I couldn't fall asleep till about midnight, and like woke up in a panic at like 4:30 a.m. So I've been up for many hours. I did like a 45-minute, or well, it ended up being more like a half an hour meditation, and showered and got ready and got my mail and did my nails, and I was just like trying to do things that weren't going to ask more of me mentally this morning while still like grounding and breathing. And I had like the good vibe hurts music playing. I check the inspo for the Cozy Coven playlist. I don't remember what numbers they were, but different songs that like kind of bring me back to my most like calm, authentic energy, talking myself through it, like reassuring myself that I'm okay and that I'm safe and that I know what I'm talking about and things are gonna go well. And also just back to my mantras, like my favorite and my go-to on a day-to-day basis that I need to remind myself and that I feel like helps me align to my true self is that I am calm, confident, and captivating. The 3 C's, if you will. I'm interrupting my update here to just add on to this point that I've been thinking a lot recently about how, again, all of this like anxiety and presenting, I received extreme amounts of non-constructive criticism in my youth, but one of the things that was praised just ever so slightly, ever so rarely, was my intelligence because of what it meant for those around me if I was smart. So in that, I've felt like I need to prove it, and I'm learning about myself and listening to this book again that that's not my authentic state. Now they talk about like academics making things more complicated by asking questions that cause more questions and not getting to the essence of things while trying to understand why and how they work. And I mean, that's also just like an incredibly neurodivergent thing and an incredibly Morgan thing. I love systems. I love how systems work, and more importantly, why they're not working or what we're not getting about them. And I love to figure things out, but what I've noticed, specifically in the scientific community, because that's what I've been drawn to, is this elitism or this gatekeeping and also this ego And I've noticed that for a lot of scientists, it comes from a fear of the unknown, where if there can be some sort of conclusive narrative to prove things, then somehow life will make sense and have meaning. And for me, the exploration of things is because it's exciting, because it's fun to figure things out. It's fun to solve problems and be wrong and challenge your perspective and think in a million different ways. It's fun. And so reminding myself of that. And then I also just have this personal drive that I think there's something so immoral about gatekeeping information. And I feel so personally passionate about that issue, and that is why my motive in a lot of the things that I do is to make resources and education accessible. I think empowering groups of individuals that just don't have the same accessibility is so an intelligent people is a powerful, evolutionary, transformative, incredible people. And that means so much to me. So I love knowing, and I love challenging, and I love learning, and I love sharing, but also realizing this like softness. And I think I'm trying to like return to my femininity and teach myself that it's okay to trust and it's okay to receive and all of those things. And in that, and with my quarter of a century birthday coming up, I'm so tired. I really want to stop fighting for my life. Not that I am as actively as I used to, but I feel like it was just survival and then healing and then build something that's sustainable so that you can kind of live maybe someday. And I'm tired of preparing to live. I would love to just be, and to be love, and to create, and to learn, and to have peace and connection and life. I would love life. That's kind of what I'm doing here. Trying to find a way to make more space for that. And I think also in that, returning to myself and returning to that inner nature and to the taoism of it all, and to the feminine receptive nature of it all, is that I don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have to be the mastermind of every little situation that happens all the time. Okay, continue with the update. Anyway, I'm here decompressing, and I'm continuing to watch The Vampire Diaries, and this is something that's been on my mind for a couple of days, but I think it's funny right now because I'm specifically paused on the episode Bad Moon Rising, and I've talked about how my rising sign is in Moolah, and this is an episode where they're like figuring out werewolves, and I just think it's like funny overall. But I was thinking about our loves, especially as a generation, like the 2000s babies, for fantasy and things like that. And I think there's so many different things that we can get into for, like escapism in our modern world, but I also think that there's quite a bit of like the rise of superhero culture that we love. Like, I'm a huge Marvel fan, that there is like an intuitive knowing in us of our own evolution that is demanded of us in this energetic space, and what the capacities of the mind are. But all of that being said, I was thinking about one of my favorite podcasts that I haven't watched in a while, and it's the Ologies podcast hosted by Allie Ward. I'm hurting my neck. Oh my god. And essentially she like interviews different scientists with different specialties, different fields, different ologies that they study. And I was remembering one that was specifically about vampires. because I thought it was funny that like that was its own field, and funny in like the most charming way. Like I love, obviously I'm a big fan of a lot of the vampire stories, especially the more modern takes, but in that he made a point that each generation has a telling that serves to the different social and psychological needs of the generation. And I've been writing for my podcast episode a lot about neurodivergence, which is something I learn about and think about and write about constantly and have for a few years now, just to better understand and accommodate and manage myself. But also the podcast episode that I'm writing currently is how to cyclically live, because living more attuned to our own like hormonal cycles is just so necessary. It's how societies were built and cultures that allowed for our evolution and our designing of society were even sustained to begin with. And yeah, I mean, like, we can go into the whole, you know, patriarchy, matriarchy, sustainable cycles of living dialogue as well. Again, all of these could have many hours of ADHD side tangents. But anyway, my subconscious has kind of been running wild as I've been like decompressing, watching this show, and just kind of in my free time thinking about the similarities between like fantastic mythological creatures and neurodivergent individuals. And I think that's also why so many neurodivergent individuals find identity and solace and validation in empowering, but again, very, oh god, what's the word, like underdog characters in fiction. Because I mean, you think of like all of the things with like heightened emotion, heightened sensory sensitivity, specifically sensitivity to like light, or a preference for like odd hours of cyclical behavior. And there's, you know, I had come up with like a couple dozen different like symptoms that just like overlapped with all of these different types of tropes. And I don't know, I think that there's just like this comfort in, you can find this chosen family or this coven in these outcasts and misfits, and it can be empowering and fun and adventurous and sexy, you know? I feel like that speaks to so many people. But yeah, I digress. I also wanted to share that I don't know, I've been listening to the audiobook of the Tao of Pooh, which I mentioned previously how much I love Winnie the Pooh, and it reminded me that I hadn't finished that book, but I'm so busy that I've just kind of been listening to the audiobook. And I don't know, I've been really resonating recently with that like authenticity and returning to simplicity and self, because I could hear my friend outside. One moment. I've been thinking about how they compare their philosophies with that of other wise philosophical perspectives, and how there was like a couple lines that they had said, like, there is more to knowing than knowledge. And I will actually look up the other line that I wrote down because I thought it was so important. Having little, oh, they were talking about I don't remember how they got here, but it was I going off of what I said before, like, know thyself, without truly, they were talking about, oh my god, what was the word? There was like this inner knowing, inner nature, I believe was the word that they used. But in this manner of like using Winnie the Pooh as an example, he doesn't do anything, but everything gets done. Very much like nature itself, like the nature doesn't rush, but everything gets done kind of mentality, that like there is a time. And I talk about divine timing, and I think sometimes we need to like talk down our logical brain into just being, because it hasn't been okay or safe or valid for us to just be, which is our most authentic state. But it was saying, like, in ignoring that inner voice, that inner nature that tells you what works for you, you don't know yourself. And by having little understanding of self, you have little respect for yourself or for others. And it does translate to that in your behavior. You are self-compromising and self-destructive, and that perpetuates into your relationships with others, and you have these micro expressions and aggressions because you're not living authentically to yourself. So, why is all of this relevant? I've found that getting caught up in the expectation of things you want comforts, especially with hormones being crazy, which is also why I think I've had such a long, painful luteal phase. I think the stress has quite literally delayed my period, so that's great. But yeah, you start to like try to fit what's in front of you or what works now into the box of what you desire, what you need to have fulfilled. And you just know in your soul that that's not what feels like home and what feels safe and resonant, because you've known what feels safe and resonant. And you know that you're just not being patient and living with the beauty of life. And it was funny because as soon as I like finished with the presentation and I was like, yes, I just got more assignments and there are things to do every day, I'm done with that and I can breathe and I can rest for today. And I was just walking in the snow and it started flurrying and I started seeing like a bunch of things that either brought me joy in the moment or had like significance to me symbolically that bring me a lot of peace of mind. And I was like, wow, what a really beautiful day, you know? And yeah, it's just that simplicity and coming back. So I talked about kind of like the coping skills that I personally used for how intense that anxiety was for presenting. And for me, it was more so just like the fact, like, none of it was a rational fear because, like I said, I like to perform. It's just like not having entire creative control, and then also like being perceived, but being perceived by people who can continue to perceive and communicate in like your network and community. Like, there's so many things that like your brain tries to make sense out of your fears, but in all actuality, it was just like a perpetuation of behaviors where people were like really harmful and none of their criticism was constructive, but devastating and intended to hurt you. And obviously you protect yourself from that trauma. But I digress. Yeah, I mentioned the skills that I used in affirmation and meditation and just like talking myself down. But one other thing that I did, super cheesy, if you find affirmations really hard to say and believe for yourself, you're gonna find this extraordinarily difficult. But I had noticed that I love so deeply, so unapologetically, so all-encompassingly whoa, girl, all encompassingly, unconditionally, irrevocably, I love so deeply. And I don't apologize for it. I care so much about the things that I love that it becomes part of my identity. To know me is to know what I love, right? But in that, I've learned that I have put in so much work and so much time into becoming somebody who was more healed, more equipped to be what I believed that relationships worthy of reciprocal things would require. And that came from a lot of like pedestaling and thinking that that kind of love was more than I deserved, but it was in me because I was capable and desired to create that and even evolve to hold the space for that and the capacity of that, and therefore I always was that. So anyway, in doing all of that, you know, of course you learn that you are worthy of all of that love all along and no matter what. But there's also so many traits that, you know, when you like romanticize the people, places, and things, the nouns that you love, you think of like all of the little things where you're like, oh my God, it's like how they laugh and that story of when they grew up and that like way that they hold themselves or how they deal with this certain situation or how they go about this or how their mind works in this way or, you know, whatever. And so, again, if you find affirmations hard, you're going to find this hard because I was cringing really hard. But I made a document called I Am the One and just started writing the things that somebody could appreciate that profoundly in me. It was hard. It was hard because, you know, but if you think about those kind of relationships where, I don't know, you are safe and seen and celebrated and somebody acknowledges all of those things about you, like you need to be able to be receiving of that and acknowledge them and all those things. So yeah, I also took on that this week. So anyway, I'm gonna continue watching the show and being horizontal for a bit. Catch up with you later. I want to go here. Somebody take me here. Look at it. Oh my God. Look at the ceiling stuff. My goodness.